Yo, what is going on, everyone? This is Conversations with Brian and Elijah, episode number 14, 15?
Something. 15.
15. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 15 because I think the last one we uploaded is 14, but if not, I'll correct it in the post edit. But today, similar to last time, although last time we kind of stuck with one particular topic, we kind of wanted to just have like a free range podcast where we just kind of talk about what's on our mind. And perhaps, it's been, we haven't done a podcast. We haven't done one since Wednesday, but since before then, we hadn't really discussed much in detail. So I think that, So what's been on your mind, Elijah?
Yeah. So, what's on my mind right now is what you were saying before. I don't want to know what you're mad about or whatever. I want to hear that.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So, it's been kind of circulating a little bit more, I think, ever since the internet started to take rise, because everyone started to see how other people lived. But there's this narrative of billionaire. Have you seen that? I'm sure you've seen it.
Did you see my TikTok last night or something?
Yes. I saw that. I saw that one, but then on Twitter, there's all kinds of, are billionaires immoral?
Yeah.
Is it immoral for a society?
Oh, this is going to be a great podcast. Yeah, this is going to be a great podcast. Let's go.
And then the whole anti-Jeff Bezos rhetoric.
Literally just because he's a billionaire too. Like, he hasn't even done anything mean. He doesn't even commentate on things or have any harsh opinions. He literally is just hated because he's so rich.
Yeah. And I think what really got people upset was there was an article written that said that he was projected to be a trillionaire by the year 2026 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so that really set people off, saying, okay, billionaires are immoral to them, let alone trillionaires, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's really made me think. And every time I hear something that gets me mad, I really start to think okay, let me really pause here and really try to understand where they're coming from. I really want to try to understand it. Mm-hmm. And the thing is billionaires, immoral or not, whatever you choose to believe, how are you going to go and fix it? Are you going to make billionaires illegal? Are you going to make it illegal to be a billionaire? What about a millionaire? Is it immoral to be a millionaire too? Or is it 999 million? Is that where the cutoff is? You can't cross 999 million. Then it's what's the cutoff,
Yeah. Dude, it's so weird. I was literally about to, on the note thing that we share, which we come up with our podcast ideas, I was going to put last night at 12, I was going to put, why are so many people anti-capitalist / billionaire? And I think it's so funny that we're thinking the same thing. I just been in a couple debates on this recently, but yeah, the point that you're making is perfect. What grounds do you have to say that this amount of money is wrong? Okay, fine. The person that says, hey, you can't be a billionaire. Okay. I think that you can't own more than $5. Yep, you can't own more than $5. How do you feel about that? It's just stupid, because the point of this is, you say, well, dude, that's $5. You can't do anything with that. The point is, why do you get to say that this amount is wrong and this amount is okay? What grounds do you have? What kind of objectivity do you have? Is that just your opinion? And if it is, I don't really care.
Yeah. And I think if you ask most people, say, hey, would you want to have $1 billion? I can't think of a logical reason why somebody would say no.
You know what's weird? I was talking to this girl a couple days ago, right? And we were talking about our futures and what we want to do. And it was kind of, I honestly, I don't want to call her out like this, but I'm going to call her out. Okay, I won't say her name, but she said that she doesn't want to be rich, right? So she would be the person that would say no to what you just said. And I think it's really weird. She doesn't want to be poor though, but she doesn't want to be rich. Now, if she's watching this, I'm sorry, but I personally feel like it's just an insecurity thing. I don't think that she thinks that she can get to that place of being that rich. Therefore, she doesn't want it. Does that make sense? It comes from insecurity. But her whole thing was well, being super rich, it comes with being stressed and all these other problems, the more money, more problems. But, and she thinks that it can become real evil or whatever. But money is not evil. It's how you use your money can be evil, but You know, you
Right,
can
right,
use the
right.
money to do a lot of good. You can cure cancer. You can feed the homeless. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
most people would take $1 billion in reality, whether they say they would or wouldn't. I think if it really came down to it, they're going to take the billion.
Well, because having money, right, it advances your worldview into the world, right? If I have $1 billion, I will, put it against things that I believe in, whether that's donate to charity or maybe start a business that is centered around a cause that I believe in per se.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really tried to be like, okay, what's the answer to like these people saying, billionaires are immoral, quote unquote. And I've really thought about it, and I feel like more capitalism might actually create a more distributed wealth creation system. Let me explain. So capitalism relies on this idea of competition, right? That's what capitalism is all about, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so what I'm thinking is if we live in a society that is more competitive, that has a more competitive business landscape, that would allow for more businesses to be able to rise up, which would in effect distribute the wealth creation in America. So when people say billionaires are immoral, then you have to ask yourself, like, how do you fix it? Do you fix it with socialism, or do you fix it with, I think you would fix it, quote unquote, with more capitalism, right?
Yeah.
Like like
God
like
bless you.
allow more businesses to be more competitive.
Yes.
You know?
Well, exactly. Because what we have right now, right? We have corporatism, right? A lot of times, government and like the way the regulations work, it makes competition not a thing. It makes it almost impossible to.
Right, right.
And the big companies, they're too big to fail. Which I hold the stance that no company is too big to fail, right? So like right now, like we were talking about this on a few podcasts ago, with the whole coronavirus thing. The bailouts. I never support bailouts, but like this is the one instance where I kind of think you have to, but it's a very special circumstance. And even right now with the coronavirus, I don't know if I support them, but I think that's what's happening a lot of times is you're basically having corporate welfare or corporate
Right, right.
socialism. And so then, yeah, it's not, the government literally gets to pick who wins and who loses. And that's not true capitalism. True capitalism is like, yeah, you have to compete. And that's my question to you. Do you think that people are too scared to compete? You know what? Okay, I have two parts. Are people scared to compete? And the number two, a lot of so, and this is nothing to say about their character, but I have friends that are rich, right? They're richer. And then I have
Right.
some friends that are considered to be poor and, they had to work for things. But, the kids that are rich, they like socialism. They want it to happen. And I'm like, and some of them, their parents run businesses and they're pretty good sized businesses. And I'm like, what would your parents say to that? Because like, I can't imagine someone that has worked hard to create a business going, yeah, let's just, give it all away now. And then the poorer people, they that are working hard, they like my friend, he got a job, he thinks that it's crazy. He thinks that no, we should have capitalism. So number one, are people scared to compete? Number two, why do you think so many rich kids want socialism? Like that just to me seems backwards.
Yeah, I think on your second point, what's interesting is I feel like a lot of these rich kids might just feel guilty that they were born in such a rich environment that they're like, man, there's people that were born in not as rich an environment that I was born in, so they just feel guilty and want to just redistribute wealth that way, which is an interesting take for sure.
Yeah, charity though, right? It was funny. I was in a debate in high school. This was kind of hilarious, and but so we were in class, and this guy asked me. He said, "Yeah, you're so against like taxation, whatever." Like I'm very against taxation too, which is an interesting thing. Like I have different positions on that, but he was like, "Okay, Elijah." He's like, "Well, don't you ever give to charity?" And like the whole class kind of laughed because I was like, yes, I give a lot to charity actually, and and then he's like, okay, then your point then is what? And I said, well, the point is when you give it to charity, you voluntarily choose to give to charity. That's a difference. You choose to do it. when you are taxed and then the government goes and spends the money, you have no choice in that. That was forcefully taken from you. So there's a clear difference. So like going to the point, if rich kids feel guilty or whatever, why don't they promote more charity things? Why don't they do more, towards charity? Like that's a great way to give back.
Yeah.
You know?
No, yeah.
And the other thing too is there's nothing wrong with businesses making money. In the TikTok I made yesterday, right? I don't think people realize Jeff Bezos is super rich because he brought value to other people. If nobody thought Amazon was useful and they weren't getting any value out of it, then they wouldn't buy from Amazon, and therefore he wouldn't get rich. We're using deductive reasoning now. Which premise is false if you disagree with my conclusion that they have to give value in order to get rich, right? I love deductive reasoning.
Yeah. It's a great way to break down points and make people to agree with you.
Yeah.
When you use deductive reasoning, what's great is don't even tell your debate opponent the conclusion. Have them agree with your premises first.
Yeah.
And then you force them into agreeing with your conclusion.
And then they say, well, no. And then you say, okay, wait, which point was wrong? No, I do that all the time. I'm exposing myself now, but I walk people into my conclusions all day.
Right. Yeah. It's a great way to debate.
But exactly. So like, why is Bezos like, if you don't like Jeff Bezos and you don't want him to be that rich, then please stop buying from Amazon. But you keep buying from Amazon because it's useful. You keep watching Amazon Prime, all those videos, because it's entertaining to you. Stop complaining.
Right. Yeah. And what I'm so fascinated by is just the Bezos psychology. So why is it that there's so much hate against Bezos, but then I don't see as much hate against like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or like any of these other ultra rich people? And it seems like those people are more forward facing when it comes to them giving away to charity, right? Bill Gates agreed to give away 99% of his wealth. So did Warren Buffett and all these other people. And I mean, that's voluntary. Like you shouldn't force Bezos to give away all his wealth.
Yeah.
Right. That's voluntarily. But perhaps it's because people seem to throw more hate towards Bezos because he's not as open about his charity work. But didn't he give away like $30 million or something to like some fund? Like I know he has his own foundation.
He pledged $10 billion with a B dollars to fight climate change, and then he just recently gave away $100 million for to feed something to do with the coronavirus. Okay, that's a lot of money. And you know what I really don't understand is these stupid, and yes, I use the word stupid because they're stupid articles that say, oh, $80,000 donation for Bezos is the equivalent to $1 for like the average person. No, it's not. Okay, rich people are rich because they value money in a realistic way. Just because you got so much money doesn't make your dollar go less down in value. It's still worth the same amount of money. It's still the same value.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Why do they always try to make it like this equivalent thing? It's stupid. It's really dumb. It's really ignorant.
And I feel like what Bezos is really trying to do, and I saw you wearing the Blue Origin hat.
That was hilarious, right?
That's what I think people don't understand is Bezos is building all this wealth in order to put it into Blue Origin, or at least
definitely.
You've read the Everything Store, right? I think that's what they said in there.
Yeah, no, I mean, okay, like I've spoken to Bezos, so like I know this to be true.
You're
like,
a credible source, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too is, I just want to go back on the point real quick. Isn't it hilarious that I decided to wear my Blue Origin hat during that?
Yeah,
you know that you can't buy that hat. Oh, I actually think you can now. I think they just announced that they're finally selling merch, but you cannot buy that hat. That hat was Bezos gave me that hat, so I thought it was hilarious that I'm being a troll. But I want to talk about TikTok later today in this podcast. But what were you saying?
Yeah, so I think what people don't understand is Bezos is building his wealth in order to put it into Blue Origin, which perhaps may not be as noble as a cause as, donating it to charity. But I would say in the long term, that's probably going to be a net positive to society.
Well, dude, I think people hate when I make this point, but it's hilarious. If Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, whoever, if they wanted to literally take their cash and throw it up into outer space, they can. It's their money. They can do what they want with it. They don't have to use it for good. There's a reason why they got that money, right? They weren't born into it. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, they had a better advantage. Where that's fine. That's fine. A lot of them didn't, though. Like Steve Jobs was not born into a great situation.
Right.
He became a billionaire. But they can do what they want with their money. To tell someone how to spend their money and to force them to is immoral. You're literally arguing from an immoral position. And it becomes very subjective. And as you already know, I think relativism is poison, right? I really do. When you start to say, when you basically get to make your own rules and whatever, I think that's a very slippery slope because, okay, is 50% a good tax rate or is 70%? Oh, no, 80%? Oh, and now where they are, now they're arguing, oh, let's do a wealth tax. Let's literally confiscate their private property by taking away their wealth so that we can give, whatever, free college to everybody. I mean, dude, we're not even talking about income tax. We're talking about a wealth tax. That's and you know what else too, which is really confusing to people, I guess, is and it's just out of ignorance, I guess, is they think that like Buffett or Gates or Bezos actually has $100 billion in cash.
Yeah.
They don't. There's a reason why he might be a trillionaire. It's because Amazon's stock price is going up in value and it's projected to be, at that point, to where the amount of shares that he owns in that company will be worth enough to make him a trillionaire.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually have that in cash. Bezos, for all we know, could be richer than that in his bank account. Or he could have $1 in his bank account. I assume he doesn't. But he could, in theory, it's very possible that he has $500 billion. He might already have $2 trillion in the bank account. We don't know. We really don't know. Right?
Yeah.
So, dude, like, my friend MG is a big capitalist too. Like, bro, you don't understand. I'm super, like, you probably at this point, like, dude, what is Elijah not passionate about? I don't know. I'm passionate about everything. But this is something that really, like, pisses me off because it's like, why are we so, like, okay, let's do this. Why do you think people why do they hold this belief? Like, let's be empathetic, like you said. Like, is it that one of the theories you said was they feel guilty or whatever? Okay, that makes sense. What else? Do you think it's like they're not competitive?
So, yeah, I think there's 2 points. So I think the first one, a lot of people don't really understand what capitalism actually is. I think that they have this idea of crony capitalism and corporatism and these big institutions. And I kind of have a little bit of a hot take on this. I kind of think that Bernie Sanders is low-key more capitalist than people claim he is, And let me explain. So Bernie Sanders oftentimes ridicules, these big corporations, right? These Bank of America, Chase Bank, all these multi-billion-dollar corporations. And I would say to some degree, he's probably anti-big business, right? But I've never heard him spew hate towards, Joe, the pizza shop owner, or I would say it's a stretch to say that he's anti-small business, right?
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are anti-small business because how much power and influence does Joe, the pizza shop owner, have? Not that much, right? But it's easy to hate on, these giant, monopolistic or multi-billion-dollar corporations. It's easy to hate on them, but it's harder to hate on small business. So I feel like if what Bernie Sanders is he's saying, hey, why don't we have more small businesses, which in a purely competitive environment is effectively what capitalism is, right? Is having more small business. I mean, this whole idea of, think about phone carriers, for example, right? AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint. There's like basically 4 giant ones.
Yeah.
If instead of having 4, if you were to have 200, right, that would be better. That would bring prices down. That would make wages more competitive. That would probably speed up innovation, right? Because now all these businesses have to compete with each other. So I think at some level, it's because people don't understand what capitalism is. That is, in an ideal world, what capitalism looks like. And so, and emphasis on the word ideal world, right? And so I've had these like just these thoughts of, and I don't know perhaps what it would look like, but how do you like, is it anti-capitalistic to before consolidation, like before mergers and acquisitions, like where you have these big like big corporations just kind of buy out all these smaller businesses and just own everything, right? You know what I mean? So I've had these thoughts like, okay, do you make mergers and acquisitions illegal? I mean, that's a pretty radical step, but like, is that anti-capitalism or pro-capitalism? Like I think there's overlap there.
Well, you know what else too?
And by the way, that's a really simple, Bernie Sanders claims he is a socialist, and I would say a lot of he has socialist policies. But I think, in some degree, he's like not as socialist as people think that he is. In an economic sense,
Yeah. The other thing I would say too is like, if you look at how our currency works, right, which people have no clue how this works, which is really sad. They should teach this though. Is we have a fiat currency, right? And when the government prints more money, which they do a lot, the money that you have goes down in value. And so if you have $100,000 saved, I would just do this. All right. In a few years, would you agree that the cost of milk or the cost of gas is going to go up in price, right? We could see that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's because your dollar is losing partially because your dollar is losing its value. There could be other explanations for why milk or gas, but the truth is that money does lose its power. So the people that are saving, they're actually, their money's going they're basically getting taxed 20% or whatever, whatever percentage it is. I don't know if it's 20% or not, but they're basically losing a percentage of their money because that 100K that I saved today is not going to be able to buy me the same amount of things 100 could tomorrow or today. Does that make sense? I don't know if I worded that right, but and so big business or small businesses get hurt by this a lot, I think, right? Is that money goes down in value.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that a huge solution would be to fix that issue right then and there. And the other thing too is the Federal Reserve, and this gets kind of complicated, but there's a few people that run it and they're basically trying to predict the economy. And I think it's so hard to predict. And I feel like it's just not a natural system. Like before 1913, we didn't have a Federal Reserve.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like, how can these people predict it? And like their rates change everything too. Like, if it goes up just 0.1, it literally changes so much stuff because then it influences the banks and what they're able to give out. And then, if you can't get loans or what percentage you have to get them at, that leads to the creation of businesses or, the downfall of businesses. So I think the solution, you know what else too? I think taxes, right? I think that, I'm the kind of guy that wants to put more money in people's pockets and let them decide, right? Like I want to, if people have more money, I think that they can then give to more businesses and that creates more competition. If they have less money, they're not going to be able to, give money into businesses and then it becomes like monopolistic or whatever. So the solutions are, I'm curious to like go into more of that, but I'm more like curious right now why, dude. Okay. Like one of my friends, he's a VP of a company. I won't say his name, but he said that, I will never forget it. I won't say exactly what he said because he cussed, but he said that, he said that Bernie supporters need to stop being lazy and stop tweeting about socialism from their parents' effing basements. And I was like, all right. I don't know. Like, why do you think so many college kids, I mean, you're in college.
Yeah.
Is it like that? Like I don't know. Do you ever talk about economics or whatever? Like,
yeah. So it's interesting. Do you know who Peter Schiff is?
Yeah.
Okay. I was listening to one of his podcasts and they asked him a similar question, why is it that it seems that young people tend to be more for socialism and sort of more liberal economics? And he said it's primarily a reason because they haven't really experienced how the world actually works yet. So, it's very idealistic and easy to say, yeah, we're going to give everyone free things and we're going to give everyone money and free and free and free. I mean, dude, if someone promises you free, that sounds good, it sounds good. It sounds great. But in actual practice, I don't think a lot of people understand the actual consequences on the economy and how you can't just print out free money. Like you said, there's inflation and other things that you have to be careful for. And for example, I think the other day, the student loan issue is a bit dicey, but I saw on Twitter that, or there was this like meme that said, oh yeah, push the button to erase all student debt. You just literally just push a button and everything is just wiped off. And while I think that it's like I said, it's a complex issue, but it's not as simple as just erasing it, right? There are a lot other consequences that go on to just erasing student debt. So I think to some degree, and Peter Schiff got a little bit deeper and said that, young people's prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed. So, they're not really able to make like entirely rational decisions.
You guys,
and I guess that would be like, I mean, my prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed yet either. So, I mean, perhaps that's why young people, it's easier to kind of spew these free, socialist kind of ideologies. And I mean, what is your take on, like, do you think that, I think there should be some, basic social safety net, right? Or do you think it's like literally like zero social safety net? What's your take on it?
I would love to see, like, what I've been kind of flirting with right now is I would love to see basically all social programs just go away, eliminate them all, and be replaced with, like Andrew Yang's idea, basic universal income. Right? So because I love capitalism and because of the competition. I don't like it when the government says, okay, you can go to this hospital or whatever, this is covered. Like, no. Let me choose, because now that forces businesses still to compete for my money. But give people the money to do that. And so I think that if we just got rid of all those programs, replaced it with a big fat check every month, people could spend it how they want to. Now, here's the problem, right? So my friend and I were debating this, and she didn't like that idea. And I noticed that there's something common amongst our generation right now. It's like no one wants to take responsibility for anything. And so like she was like, well, do you think it's really right that some people can't go to the hospital because they can't afford it? And this sounds really cruel. No. And I don't really think it works like that anyways. But no, I don't think that's right. But my question is, where do we draw the line and make it the person responsible for not having enough money? I mean, I understand that the environment, there's the economy, and like, like there's certain situations, how your upbringing, how your parents raised you, all these factors that do matter. I'm not denying them, but we do have to draw the line somewhere, right? We can't just say that no one's not responsible for anything. Where do you draw the line and say, hey, where you're not responsible? Like like, for example, I think that the person that has a job, but they waste their money on buying, clothes they don't need, drugs or things that are just like unproductive. Yeah, no, that's their fault. I'm sorry. Like, that's their fault.
Yeah.
They don't, that's their fault.
Yeah. So I think, so pretty much capitalism depends on this idea of skill acquisition. So, I mean, you can argue if you're low skilled and you remain to be low skilled for the entirety of your life, in a capitalistic environment, you will not do very well, right? So and then the question is, okay, whose responsibility is it to gain skills? Is it the government's responsibility for you to get more skills, or is it the individual's responsibility? I think that it's for sure the individual's responsibility. I mean, you can't force someone to want to get higher skills, right? So you get higher skills by, like, going to college, going to trade schools.
Want to get those skills, or do you think they're like lazy and like not motivated and they don't want to compete, like they're scared to compete with other people with skills, so like they just rather endorse this whole ideology of socialism? Like, do you think people want to get those skills, or do you think they just don't care?
Yeah, that's a deep question, but I mean, at some level, even if say I were to get a job at, let's say, I chose to climb the ladder at, like, say, a McDonald's or something.
It's always
A
McDonald's.
year after working at McDonald's, I will be more skilled than I was when I first started, right?
Yeah.
So at some level, you start to just working gives you skills,
Yeah.
right? So I guess maybe the conversation is, do people like to work?
Yeah. I said, I mean, we said this before. I mean, look at the coronavirus right now. Everyone's bored and whatever. They work is some fulfillment if they're doing something, with a bigger cause, I think.
Yeah. So, if you were to eliminate work and just give everyone checks, I mean, that sounds pretty utopian, but like, what would like the mental health of people be at? I mean, would people be happier? People would be, because I think people really bag on this idea of like this productivity complex, the stresses that come with having a job and trying to supply yourself with income and paying for bills. And I think there's a certain level of kind of, in some sense, fulfillment that it gives you, right? Like last podcast, we were talking a little bit deeper about like the meaning of life and stuff. And perhaps those kinds of things just give you meaning, and you kind of get to play this game in society where you have to.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes back to my theory of how to love yourself, right? Like, you don't love yourself by, putting on a face mask or watching Netflix all day and being lazy. Like, you don't feel proud of yourself after that, so therefore you don't respect yourself, so you don't love yourself. But you love yourself when you do things that you're proud of. You start to respect yourself. That's when then you start to like yourself. So yeah.
I think, Elijah, what I want to do, I want to see if we could get one of these people that, think that billionaires are immoral, or that, are anti, Jeff Bezos being a trillionaire. I want to see if we could get one of them on the podcast and like really try to understand like where they're coming from, and see if we could maybe convince them, or maybe they can convince us. Like, I want to be like open-minded.
No, definitely. I'm open-minded for sure. Like, and here's another thing. Okay, dude, you got to follow me on Twitter. Well, actually, you probably don't, because you'll be like, dude, this guy tweets a lot. But I tweeted out today, it's not closed-minded to have a strong stance on something. That's not closed-minded. Some people try to accuse me of being closed-minded because I'm a strong stance on things. No, that's called taking a stand. No one wants to take a stand on anything anymore. It's a lot easier to go, well, maybe, or whatever, and like not care and whatever. No, like, take a stance on something. But I think open-minded is being willing to change your position. Okay. And I'm more than willing to change my position for sure. I'd actually probably be more liked because I would agree with the majority of people my age. So
yeah. No, I thought it was powerful. Last podcast, you said, hey, if there's evidence that, that there is no supernatural being, I'll turn atheist right now.
Yeah.
That was powerful, because that just shows, you're open-minded if presented with truthful facts.
Well, because, so this is probably why I have such a hatred towards relativism, because they deny that any truth exists. Extreme skepticism, right? Extreme, they don't even know if they exist, which but that gets into like, I believe it was Kant, philosopher Kant. I don't know. Anyways, you know. But I let truth rule my life. So I always want to be on the side of truth. So like, I believe that God exists. If God doesn't exist and there's evidence to, that clearly shows that, and like, or it's enough to convince me, I'm going to become an atheist today. If socialism is the superior economic system that's going to, be better for society and the individual and everything, I will become a socialist today, right? Whatever is true. But I wanted to ask you, so do you think it would be better to get, like, do you know anybody like that? Like, would it be better to get someone that that is a socialist that thinks billionaires are immoral, or would it be, because I know some people right now. So
you know some people right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
they're younger though, so I feel like it might not be as no offense to them, but as intellectually convinced, like, you know what I mean?
Dude, I want to get one of these people that get thousands of retweets on Twitter.
Dude, yes.
And I want to add them and be like, hey, you know, good point. You want to come on the pod and see if you could, you know, hold this viewpoint for, you know, 30-minute pod, 40-minute pod, an hour pod, whatever. I think that would be powerful. And then look, even you want to talk about marketing, just dropping the link to the pod as a reply to the thread and be like, hey, look, this is what this guy thinks. Check out the pod if you guys want to, you know, see if his argument holds up or not.
Yeah. No, dude, like I'm so annoyed on Twitter. I see these dudes get like hundreds of thousands of retweets and they're not even saying things that are true. And you know what else, like, to kind of go off on Twitter for a second, why is every single tweet on Twitter, right? Why do they always have, like, you know, they copy and paste things and they put it in there and it just doesn't, like, they're literally just copying and pasting and they get the same result. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's Twitter is a whole other beast that I think there's just so many voices on there that, like, just it makes it difficult to, like, to talk on there because there's so many voices, you know. If you have a contrarian point of view, Twitter is not the place to host that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know, yeah, Twitter is kind of not the place for, I don't know, I kind of just want to go in all those chats and just commentate on all this stuff and be like, what are you guys saying? You know, I haven't done that yet, but I think I'm going to, because I'm kind of becoming more bold every week. I'm becoming bolder and, like, I don't really care. But switching gears, I guess, right? So TikTok, right? I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on, because, like, what I notice on TikTok, right, the things that do well are basically really controversial.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if you think, like, what the business impact would be if you took clear stances on things, right? So, like, if I was, like, taking a clear, like, if I was talking about, I basically kind of did. I'm a pro-capitalist, which is not a popular opinion. I think Jeff Bezos should be able to have his money. Wow, that's very unpopular. You know, talking about that stuff publicly, do you think that would hurt you or whatever? Like, and same with religion. Like, if you talk about religion, like, you know, would that hurt you too? Like, you're talking about politics. Like, what is do you think it could do more good than bad? Like, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think, well, just looking at it, like, in a pure marketing sense, it seems that controversy tends to get more clicks. And I think the same is, like, on TikTok and all these other social media platforms. But I do think taking a stand, I think at the end of the day ends up helping you in the long run, because, you know, even if your stance, people disagree with it, you still get more engagement and
get respect too.
Yeah.
I mean, Gary V, right? I would say that cussing is not the greatest marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Or would you say that it is because it makes him stick out?
Well, it depends, right? It's if he's sitting in a boardroom of, you know, professionals and, you know, like at some giant company that he's pitching towards, cussing might not be the best option there. But I think in an online sense, I mean, dude, I've seen other creators that, you know, just start cussing for no reason, or where it just seems, you know, I mean, sometimes Gary cusses for no reason, but a lot of times his cussing is like, there's a certain, it leaves a certain note. That's why I think people tend to gravitate towards Gary. But I mean, on the one hand, a lot of people don't really like the cussing. It turns them off, you know. And we actually created this thing called Curse Free Gary V on YouTube, where we go through some of his YouTube content and we cut out the cursing for people that are so floored by his cursing they can go watch his content without him cursing on there.
That's funny.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I just, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to, like, I think that, like, so the weird thing about me is, like, I kind of have, like, I have never like changed my position, but I never like went completely open. But the things I'm really good at and the things that I like to talk about is basically really controversial stuff, politics, religion,
Right,
right?
right.
Um, but at the same time, I think those things are so interesting. Like I think people are genuinely interested in that because that's how we live our lives. So I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like I would do better if I was just more open and did talk about those things. But I'm worried about the future consequences of that. Like, is that going to hurt in the future? But then again, like I feel like people will just kind of get over it.
I think if you frame it as a conversation or like you just kind of saying, okay, I'm taking a stance on this, or having a guest on that is like, takes the opposite point of view. I mean, the reason why I loved that Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson debate, I think we talked about it last podcast, was because it wasn't a debate, or it was more of like just a conversation of opposing points of view. And you could just really see that both of them kind of agreed on the same principle, just how to get there was a little bit different. And I thought that was really refreshing. It was just a conversation. And maybe that's weaseling out of it a little bit. I mean, do you want it to be a debate, or do you want it to be like a conversation? Because I think both things are interesting, but I think you get less controversial if you frame it as a
Do you think controversy is bad? Like do you really think it's bad? Like in today's
no.
world, like I feel like the only thing that actually gets talked about is things that are controversial.
Yeah, I think when it's artificially created or like inflated, I think it could be bad. Because
But like I'm just saying, like if
know,
you create a strong stance, you make a bold claim, but it's something that you really do believe in.
yeah.
And people disagree with you and it's controversial. I don't think that's bad.
No, yeah, I wouldn't say that is bad for sure. If you actually genuinely believe it, not to just get clicks or just to get, more hype build around your content, you do it actually because you believe in it. That isn't fake controversy. That's like, you're just taking a stance on it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, okay, Brian, so let's say that you're my marketer or you're my manager, right? Okay. What would you make me do? Like I was kind of wondering that today. I was like, I wonder what this guy would make me do if I put him in charge of me. So what would you make me do? Like what would your
So I think what's
okay, like I'm sorry I'm interrupting again, but
no, do it.
thing that I've been debating all day, I guess it's the last thing we'll talk about is niches, if I'm saying that right. Like having your specific.
Yep.
Do you like? Can I talk about? I mean, religion, politics, like they're all over the place, but it's like under the umbrella of like intellectualism, but like.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about, and I've had, watching a lot more like debates about religion and politics as of late, I've seen the niche of this particular category. And what's so fascinating is if you go to a video about, some like a David Dobrik video, right? And you go to the comments, the longest comment is probably going to be like 2 sentences or a sentence or like literally 5 words. If you go to a Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson debate comment section, dude, people reply with like 3 paragraphs long, and then other people reply to them with 3 paragraphs long. And like, what I would say if I was your manager is it seems like in this particular niche, people love like reading, and they like to actually consume their content through the written word. So I would probably say, and I know you're working a little bit on this on the side, but I would probably say maybe articles could probably be more effective, because people like really like to digest their content via the written word. It seems like that.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But what about when it comes to the niches? Niches. Why am I saying that wrong? But like, what about that? Like, can you be all over the place? Like, because I heard Gary Vee in the past say that, like, find it, and then like recently, like 6 months ago, he has this video where he's talking to this dude in the car, and he was like, "No, your niche is you. Like, it's you. You can talk about all types of things."
Yeah. I think so. I wouldn't say that the niches are entirely different. Religion, economics, philosophy, spirituality are all under the academic umbrella, like people that are intellectual. I mean, granted, yeah, there are people that are just purely interested in like religion and philosophy and not interested in economics, but to some degree, like they're kind of looped together. And I think that there's a lot of people like us that look at both of those things: religion, economics, spirituality, philosophy, um, all those kinds of things. It's like its own circle, right? Like think about it like this: like you go to one person, one content creator to get what you want out of them, and then you go to another one to get what you want out of them. But what if you were to like combine both of them? Every time that there's like a crossover, like when Lil Nas X did that remix with the Old Town Road song, when he did the remix with the Country Road person. I mean, you kind of collaborated. You did like hip hop and rap and country. That was like a crossover. There are people that love both hip hop and country, and they like loved that song, And so I think that there's crossover of people saying, where can I get the one person that is like thinks exactly like me? And that could be you, that could be me, That could be Gary. So
yeah, definitely. Like, I don't know. I just like yeah, the other thing too is I need to create images too on IG, because like that's like, because I don't want it to just be all videos, so that's something else. But
yeah,
I'm thinking it could just literally be like you said, more written. Like it could literally just be like text posts, like where like I showed you that thing that I created. But I'm curious to see how this like will translate, into the future, because it's important that because like the way I see it, like, right, if I could build the audience, then I can totally get to a place to where we could cure my cause, right? We could cure Deshane and get that done and do other things. But it's like, how do you get, I feel like this right here where I'm at right now is the hardest part. Once I have the initial audience, then it becomes a lot easier. So it's just like, the thing that I'm confused on is like, since I'm so diverse, does that make it like hard for people to go, what is this guy about? And then so they don't know?
Yeah, I think you could effectively communicate what would you say you're about? 4 to 5 things, right? Perhaps philosophy, business, economics, spirituality, maybe a little bit of religion, right? So I think you could effectively communicate all 4 or 5 pillars. Yeah.
And like, that's not going to be confusing, you don't think?
I wouldn't think it'd be that confusing. I mean, it would be one thing if, maybe you also become the sports guy. You start commentating on sports as well, and religion and philosophy. That could maybe be a little bit of a stretch. But I think I don't think those are completely.
I see what you're saying. It's still in the realm. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think I gotta just keep pushing it. I'm seeing a lot of engagement more on IG, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm like looking at the data, but I will see.
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty. What I mean, you've been doing it consistently for like what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month?
No, not really, to be honest. No? Not consistently. I'm starting to. Okay, look, let me tell you my problem, and I want to know what Gary Vee would say. So I'll ask the second best guy. If I didn't do text post, if I just posted a bunch of videos, like the videos I've been posting.
Yep.
So would that be better? Like, would that be okay? Like, I feel like it's not okay, but like, I have so much content on my phone. I could do that. I'm just worried that, okay, my page is going to just look like a bunch of videos. Like, I feel like I need to create some text in there too. And my thing is like, what text do I, like, what kind of text post or other posts that are not videos? How do I change it up so it's not boring and the same thing?
Yeah. I think that doing the text and doing the, maybe the different video layout would be probably interesting. And you've been doing that, but having, making every video look a little bit different could make people more engaged. throwing in some text posts for sure. I mean, we would typically, I mean, we would never post 4 videos a day. It would typically be, I mean, sometimes we'd post 1 video and 3 images, you know?
You're saying like the images could be like things I tweeted out, and then you just like remake them into like.
Exactly. Yeah. Into little text boxes. And what was nice is there was a cartoonist. There was like 3 cartoonists on the team. So we would have these like comic strips, Gary Vee like comic strips. And some of those, dude, like they were really good and they exploded. I mean, like 500,000 likes on one photo, which was like a lot. So, I mean, some of those would perform very, very well. And, you know, obviously it'd probably be a little bit more hard to get comic strips up.
I got one. I got a guy. Literally.
Oh, really?
I talked about this a couple days ago. I was like, yeah, dude. I was like, I want to do some comic stuff. He's like, yeah, I could totally do that. So we already got the agreement too.
Yeah. Boom. There you go. So having, I mean,
but
images,
I'm saying like if my stuff is like 70% video, like 30%, is that okay? Because like I feel like it's a lot easier for me to do the videos than it is like to constantly have comments.
Yeah. And 70-30 is good. I would say 70-30 is probably the nice medium. Maybe you want to bump it up to 80-20 because the videos are just killing it. But yeah, I mean, as long as you change up, you know, the format of the video every now and then, should be in good shape.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. I got to just do it. I think it's better to post than not post though. Like that's number one.
Yep. 100%. Agree. Cool, man. Any remaining thoughts? Final thoughts? We got to get that guest on. I'm actually really going to try and get like some person that you know had.
Yeah, do you want it to be your guest or do you want it to be my guest? Like, I don't care either way.
Say that one more time.
You want it to be my guest or your guest? Like, I don't care either way. Like, you want to find them or do you want me to find them?
I'll try to find them. I can try to find, but not like a friend. I want to see if we can get one of these people on Twitter. If not, then we'll throw one of your peeps on, or maybe we can have both. Maybe that'll work. I don't know, but we'll figure some.
Yeah, that would be interesting. All right, for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Cool.
All right, cool. This has been Conversations with Brian and Elijah, episode number 14. Thank you for listening.